we are going to be making a spaghetti bolognese. And that's kind of a fancy way of just saying we're making spaghetti with meat sauce. Danny, our chef, is from Spain. So you see his picture. He grew up in the Basque region of Spain. He'll explain that to you. And this is one of his grandmother's recipes. And what's neat about this recipe is it's all going to be done in one large pot. So if you have a big pot, big skillet, we're going to cook everything in there, including the pasta. So you should have your meal kit ready. You should have your ingredients laid out. I've got most of my ingredients. What I want to start doing is working first with your onion. If you haven't already, let's go ahead and get that onion chopped up. And if you have a food processor at home, it makes it so much easier to do this recipe. However, knowing that we have limited kitchen utensils, we don't have a lot of fancy things in our kitchen, what we're going to need to do when we chop these vegetables is we're going to try and get them as small as possible. A food processor would do that for us, but we're going to try and get this onion diced as small as possible. So what I did is I cut it in half, and I'm now peeling the skin off. And if you remember how I've done this before, let's go ahead.
I have a question.
Uh-huh.
I have a vegetable blender. Does that work?
What do you have?
A vegetable blender.
A vegetable peeler. It can work, but I think it's best
a vegetable blender.
You've got that. Perfect. If you've got something like that, who's speaking to me? I see the last name, Kali. Kate. Yeah. Adriana, perfect. You're already mountains ahead of us. So if you could, yeah, go ahead and do that. Start with your onion. If you don't have it, I've got my sharp knife. I got my cutting board. I'm going to go ahead and dice up my onion. And if you remember how I taught you how to do it, what you do is you cut it in half first, like I did here. Matson, can you also, thank you. Cut it in half first. And then what I like to do is slice horizontally, real close to the board, and then a second one. And then I like to go through it vertically. Be careful. You don't want to cut your fingers. See how my fingers are way on the side holding it. And then I dice through, and I try to get the finest dice possible. How many people already have their onions cut? Oh, I see hands up. I see people who've already been doing prep. Good job. So I'm getting this onion done, and then I'm going to move on to the carrots and the celery. And for the carrots, I think we probably gave you a bag of carrots, so you're going to have extras, which obviously make great healthy snacks. For this recipe, you're only going to need 2 carrots. So if you want to get those carrots out, I'm going to grab my carrots in just a second. And I'm going to make sure that I dice my carrots really fine like I've diced my onion. And then if you've already got your carrots done, you can go ahead and move to celery stalks. And we'll need 2 celery stalks. So we've done 1 onion. We're doing 2 carrots. And we're doing 2 celery stalks. We'll go ahead and introduce to you our chef who's here now. Danny, come on over. The camera's straight ahead.
Hello, how are you? Good to see you.
Danny is fresh from the grocery store, so our ingredients are as fresh as possible.
Yes. No, it was you'll see some of the great things about cooking with fresh ingredients. So it's all about making sure that you put a little bit of love into everything. So that's how you're gonna see that the end taste of everything that you've done.
Right.
Okay.
So I went ahead and told them they know they're making spaghetti bolognese.
Oh, yes.
And I said, this is, no, hopefully I didn't lie. This is your grandmother's recipe?
So this is what my grandmother used to make every single Sunday. So, of course, later on, you know, I started learning and how she used to do it. And of course, the main thing, it was all about that passion that she used to put in. Of course, she wanted to see our smiles when we were eating it. So I'm, of course, as a chef, when I'm in my house, I try not to make so many things or cook with so many pots. So this one is going to be a nice surprise. They just get to use one pot.
One pot. And that's easy on dishes. So I'm going to let you take over. I'm going to grab carrots and celery for you. I'm going to let you do some chopping. We've already got everybody ready with their onion. And then as we get going chopping, we can kind of talk a little bit more about your grandmother and every Sunday and what other things she liked to cook for you.
Well, one thing about my grandmother. So we were from my father's side, from Chile, from my side. So she used to cook a lot of that rustic feel, and of course a lot of that food that that comfort food. So
comfort food.
Yes.
And I can't think of anything better in comfort food than spaghetti, but yes. Okay, so we start with, tell us how we get going and how I can help you. We've got the onion going.
Of course, we've got the onions going.
Okay.
And then, just a little rough chop around there, okay? So it can be nice and fine, okay? And you don't have to worry about, how would you say, the
food processor.
Yes.
Although we already have one person in our audience who has a mini food processor. So she's already working on that. So we're trying to get it real fine. And the reason we want it real fine is because we want it to kind of melt into the sauce, correct? You don't want to taste big bites of onion or carrots. You want to melt it into the sauce.
And then so one of the many things is that you want it, to sweat all these ingredients. Okay, little napkins.
Oh yeah, napkins. I have them right here.
And also, this is a quick, like a little trick. You can put a napkin under your cutting board.
Oh, okay, yes. I've actually heard that before. If your cutting board is sliding all over the place, like ours is right now, he just took a napkin and wet it a little bit, put it under there, and that'll help it from sliding. And especially when you're using sharp tools like knives, you don't want your cutting board all over the place. You can also use a kitchen towel or whatever you have in hand.
So one of the first things that you want to do is, this has to be cold, okay? Or warm, and then you're gonna start adding your onions.
Okay. So we can get an overhead shot real quick as we put this together, Madsen. Yep. Okay. Yes. And we'll get oil while you go ahead. If you have your oil, go ahead and put the oil in the pot with the onion, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay. So we'll go ahead and get, Madsen, can we get a little olive oil, please? About a tablespoon, 2 tablespoons of olive oil.
So this is a little trick from me working at a couple of Asian restaurants. You can just grab the side of your knife and you can just
whack it.
Oh, you whack it and that's it.
Whack that garlic and that smushes it, right? And it gets it nice and easy to cut and very good.
And then of course we have 4 garlic cloves. And again, and now we're just gonna very fine.
Okay, question.
Question.
I never use this blender for vegetables. I've always used it for ice. But is this good enough? Is it small enough?
So you're using a blender. What do you think about that, Danny?
It's a vegetable blender.
Oh. The vegetable blender, like for making juice, it will make it a little bit too on the juicy side. So it'll be you'll need to kind of like reduce down the extra water. That. And then now, so in a way, the blender will make it more of a smoothie in a way, but the food processor just makes it nice and not puree, but of course, like
she has a mini processor. So I think that's what she means. Yeah, we wouldn't recommend a blender per se because that does kind of get it more juice based. So we've just added 4 cloves of garlic to our onion. And as Danny says, we're sweating it out.
Yes.
And so by sweating it out, that means we're cooking it till it gets kind of almost translucent, almost clear.
One of the things that you want to do is you want to start building layers. Of course, you start building those flavors and those layers. And then, of course, you start making sure that, it's translucent, okay? But you want to add salt every single time that you add a new ingredient into this sauce, okay?
Excuse me, I have a question. After I put the onions and the oil start to heat up, do I put the garlic?
Yes. Yes.
How many cloves?
You want 4 cloves of garlic. And if you just watch Danny, what he did is he peeled that garlic and then he smashed it and then he diced it and added it to it. So you should have right now working for you onion and garlic.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Correct. So that's the main thing that you want to do. You want to get, and now you want to very lower the temperature.
Okay, so we had it going pretty high. We're lowering the temperature. Get that down. I don't want to turn it off. Get it back on. So while we get this back on, I'll let you go ahead and chop.
Start putting in this one.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, we got it. So now we're going to chop some celery and carrots. Is that the next step?
Oh, yes. So we're going to chop the celery. And then, again, you want to, there's no problems about having it, not so, you're going to use a food processor, you can just ground it up. And then if you're going to use your knife, just chop it up even more, a little bit finer.
I'm always amazed at watching chefs work in the kitchen. Do you see his knife skills? I mean, the blade never leaves the cutting board. He's just going back and forth, and he's getting the nicest dice going. Beautiful. I bet that took a long time to learn those skills.
A little bit.
So you went to culinary school. Tell us a little bit about how you got into being a chef.
So I got into, my parents, they were like, we don't want you to go to culinary school. So I started working at a sushi restaurant.
Okay.
And then I started working at a sushi restaurant, then at a bakery. And then, of course, my parents saw that, that I had, some type of love into this. And of course, they were like, you know what? You should go and try it out, check it out. And of course, when you start cooking, you start putting, all this, seeing all this flavors and the smells and then you just want to continue cooking every single time. And then, of course, I was going to school in Orlando. And then at the same time, there was this marvelous magician had a restaurant in Orlando. His name is Norman Van Aken.
We all know Norman. Norman's our culinary director of this program. Absolutely. And he was in Orlando at the time that Danny was there.
Yes. So worked with Chef Norman for a little bit throughout my school year. And then after that, the beauty of being in this profession is that you're kind of like a backpacker in a point, kind of free, looking for where you can continue learning. So I went to California.
So you went from Orlando to California. Did you go to San Francisco?
I went to San Francisco.
That was San Francisco. And here's a neat thing that I've done with researching what Danny's done in his phenomenal career to get to the point he's at. He worked in San Francisco for a Michelin star restaurant, correct?
Yes, correct.
And Michael Mina.
With Michael Mina.
Yes. And so you all may not know how incredible it is to work in a Michelin star restaurant. You probably have not heard the words Michelin star, but I'm going to tell you a little bit about it. Michelin star is like your A+++ restaurant.
Yes.
It's the highest standard, and they award only certain restaurants that star. Mm-hmm. And so you obviously were working at one of the best restaurants, yes, under one of the best chefs in San Francisco.
Yes. Working with Chef Michael was also, you get to see something new. And of course, it was all the California cuisine and all these ingredients. And of course, working in San Francisco, it's a dream come true. But of course, you know, San Francisco is a little bit more expensive than many other places in the world
to live. So yes.
Then after that, went to Central America. So
okay, we'll get to that in a second.
Yes.
Adrian, do you have a question?
Yeah, sorry for interrupting. What do we do with the celery after we cut it?
Okay, Adrian, get your celery cut as small as you possibly can. If we have an overhead camera, we'll take a look. If you can get it as small as this. Yeah, if you can get it, Adrian, if you can get it even smaller than that.
You want them like cubes?
Yeah.
Yes.
As small as possible. Okay.
And you see this carrot? So the carrots, now we're going to see my best way that I can peel a carrot. I have the peeler, and then I go down. You see? And then, of course, you continue going. So you don't want to waste the carrot itself. And again, you just put the carrot, you grab it, and you just start peeling down.
Right. So we've got 2 carrots that we're also going to be dicing very, very small, again, a fine dice. So if you're already a step ahead of us, get going on those carrots, because in a little bit, we're going to be adding both the celery and the carrots to this onion mixture that's cooking on low heat right now.
If it's taking a little longer, you can just set it aside, the onions.
Because you don't want to burn them.
Correct. You don't want to burn them. So you can just set them aside. And of course, that extra heat will continue cooking them. And we'll do the same thing with the carrots, the same thing that we did with the celery. We're going to cook them. We're going to cut them in half lengthwise.
And then put it on its flat side. It's so much easier to cut something round if you can make it with one flat side. Right.
You're going to take out that little bit of that top, so you don't have to waste so much of the carrots.
Okay.
And then the celery, we're going to put it here in this corner. And then now we're going to cut
the carrots.
I have a question.
Uh-huh.
Why do we peel the carrot?
Well, I love eating carrots whole. And that's not a problem.
Why do we peel it?
But when you peel it is because also it's gonna impart more of a bitter flavor into the dish. But you can eat carrots with its skin on, and that's not a problem with it, you know. But for this dish, you wanna peel them.
How big are we cutting the tomatoes?
So the tomatoes, we're gonna cut them. Right after this, you're gonna cut those tomatoes in a little bit of not fine. You want them to be a little, how would you say, chunky. Because it will add some chunkiness into the sauce.
And the tomatoes will cook down the sauce a little bit too, because correct. There's so much water in the tomatoes, so they'll cook down quite a bit. So if you're a step ahead of us, go ahead and dice those tomatoes into probably 1/2-inch cubes, would you say?
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
Now we're going to add the celery and the carrots.
All right.
And then now what we will do is, again, we're going to add some more salt.
Okay, so a little more salt. We're seasoning, as you mentioned, in layers. get that going. And what's next, Chef?
So next, you want to get, so in the meanwhile, you want to get the tomato paste.
The tomato paste.
We can open that up.
Okay.
So in the meanwhile that we get also our tomatoes cut.
Okay.
So in total is, we're going to have 6 tomatoes.
Okay. Madsen, I am supposed to have a can opener. I don't know if Thomas brought it to me or not, but I'm not seeing it. So can we get a can opener for our tomato paste? You should have tomato paste in your meal kit. If you can go ahead and get it open. We're not going to use the full amount of this.
No, correct. No. So you can, the best way that you can save it is put it in a Ziploc bag, and then you can put it in the refrigerator or in the freezer.
Or the freezer. Good money saving tip. Because oftentimes recipes only call for like 2 tablespoons of tomato paste. And this is the smallest container you can kind of get at the store, and you don't want it to go to waste. So I love the idea of taking the rest of it out, putting it in a Ziploc bag, and putting it in your freezer. And then you can just cut off as what you need for another recipe.
Correct.
Great. Okay, so you're over there doing your tomatoes. I'm going to get tomato. How much tomato paste goes into?
It's going to be one tablespoon.
Okay, 1 tablespoon of tomato paste. You can go ahead.
How many tomatoes are we using?
6 tomatoes.
6? All
yes.
6? Okay.
All 6. So let's go ahead and get that diced up.
We have another question here. What's the word for the mix of onions, carrots, and celery?
So that's the mirepoix.
Oh, no, that's okay. We're good.
The carrots, onions, and celery, that's the mirepoix. And that's the pretty much you use it for the pretty much basics of all sauces, the basis of all stocks in the French cuisine.
So I'm going to go ahead and get that tomato paste into the vegetables. Let's take a look if we can. Yep, there we go. We have an overhead look. And what are we looking for here, Danny? What do we want to see?
Cook it out. You want to make a fond out of it. You want to make for that tomato paste to kind of like get not burnt in the bottom, but also kind of like make a little, cook out that flavor. But how would you say, the acidity of the tomato paste.
Okay, so we're going to cook that for a while.
Yes, correct.
Okay, great. So I'll stay over here and I'll watch that cook. He mentioned fond, F-O-N-D, and that's another cooking term. That means that when you see your vegetables or whatever it is you're sauteing, really get all the water out, and then it actually starts showing brown bits on the bottom.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing. Don't think you're burning it. You got to watch it closely, but you actually want to cook it to that where the color actually almost turns to almost a brown.
Yes, correct. There's a color that'll be burnt, but there'll be that you don't want to get to that point. But make sure that it's on the getting to that mahogany color of the tomato paste.
Yeah, a rich color. Right. Great. So you're using both fresh tomatoes, and then you all will notice from your meal kit, you have canned tomatoes as well.
Correct.
Tell us why you're using the combination of fresh and canned.
So one is called, of course, umami. So you're gonna build those flavors and those that roundness to the dish, to the recipe, the roundness of flavors that you will feel on your mouth, inside your mouth. So one of those things that you want to make sure that one, of course, the canned tomatoes will have a deeper flavor. Then the fresh tomatoes will add, of course, some of the freshness, and also will create nice juicy sauce, of course, for the dish.
Okay, great. So we're using, like we said, a combination of fresh and canned. If you can't get fresh tomatoes or they're a little expensive, right now they're pretty reasonable in terms of price. But if you wanted to, you could substitute using fresh tomatoes and just use the canned tomatoes. But we really like the flavor of the two coming together in this recipe.
Correct.
Okay, so back to Spain.
So
you went from San Francisco to Spain?
yes. So I went to Spain, and I worked with one of the best chefs in the world in San Sebastian. And of course, it was this experience that you will have never ever tasted the amount of flavors, and of course the finesse of every single dish, and the composed dishes, and that fine dining aspect. But that, of course, it was Michelin had grades up until 3 stars. So this one had 3 stars. So of course it's an honor to be able to work there.
Right.
Then, and of course, it's one of those things that really made my career too.
Right. Any tips you've learned from Spain, or any particular dish in Spain that you remember that you can't forget about?
Well, you know what? It's something that I do it all the time in my house, and I do it for breakfast for the kids sometimes. It's the Spanish tortilla.
Spanish tortilla.
And it's pretty much, just eggs and a little bit of potatoes, and you make this beautiful kind of like a Spanish omelet, you would say. And of course, that dish is something that just gets stuck to you, and you have it forever and ever and ever. And it's just simplicity.
Yeah.
Simplicity, and flavors. So that was the main thing about what we saw in Spain.
So I should mention Danny has 3 kids.
Yes. Oh yeah.
So we mentioned that he makes the Spanish tortilla for his kids. They love it. What are the ages again?
I got a 12-year-old, I have a 10-year-old daughter, and a 5-year-old son.
Wow. And a puppy, I heard too.
Oh boy, yes. That puppy, it's that COVID puppy.
COVID puppy. So your house is extremely busy, and you're cooking when you can. Of course, he's cooking for his job, and then he comes home and he's got to cook for his 3 kids, his wife, and the puppy gets the leftovers.
I have a question.
Yes.
How do you learn all the different like do you just experiment with it? Or do you go online, or how do you learn all the different recipes? Because I have a boyfriend, and I'm also expecting a child. So, I want to be able to, do something different and not the same thing every day.
So that's the point of this program. I'll let you answer real quickly, Danny, but I am so grateful for that question, because that is the point of this program. We're coming on every month showing you a new recipe so that you can learn. And the recipe comes in your meal kit too. And I was talking to Ruth and Abigail, who are with us today too. They've been saving all of their recipes, and they go back to them. So as long as you continue joining us every month, you'll learn a new recipe, and you can go back and recreate the old recipes as well.
Correct. And that's something that all my chef peers, they show you something different every single time that they come over. And of course, I wanted to show you something that I learned from my grandmother's repertoire, and something that hit the heart too. Yeah. So hopefully, that you guys will get to enjoy it.
Yes, a good question. How's everybody doing? You got your fresh tomatoes in the saucepan. Are we looking good?
So now we added the tomatoes after we made
the last tomato.
That fond of the tomato paste. Now we added those fresh tomatoes, and we added some salt. So now we're just gonna start cooking it out. Okay.
So what should the temperature be? Are we still on low?
You want to go to the medium. The low is good if you have extra time. But if you have, how would you say? If you're in the run, you can go into the medium. Don't go high, because it will start splattering all over the place. And then, of course, it's something that the more cleaning, the more difficult it will be. So
right, is that getting up higher? Yeah, sure. Okay, so we're gonna let that sit for a couple minutes,
and then, of course, now we can add our bay leaves.
Okay, in your meal kit, I don't think we've ever used these before. Explain why we're using bay leaves.
So bay leaves, again, it's just that those flavors again from you can say Italian, Spanish, also French, the Mediterranean flavors, and it just adds another extra layer of flavor that is just spectacular. For me, bay leaves is one of my favorites, and I always add it into any sauce, stocks, and it just rounds out.
It gives it more of an earthy. I think it gives it such a great earthy taste to it. Now we're letting it cook there, of course. In the end, we're going to pull that out. You don't necessarily want to eat your bay leaf. It's there to season your stocks and sauces, like Danny said.
Correct. So we were going to do the one step that we missed. It was doing in here, but we can do it in another pot.
Okay.
Cooking the beef and the.
Okay. So we're going to go ahead and use another pot. I know we said we were using one, but we're going to go ahead and use a second pot. And we're going to start working with the beef that you have in your meal kit. I'm going to get that lighter. I'll get a lighter to help you with
maybe this one.
Maybe it'll work. Madsen, we got it. Okay, great. Got it going. So in your meal kit, Alessandra, tell us what type of beef or what type of meats do they have in their meal kit?
Got a great mix that includes beef, pork, and veal.
Okay, so they were able to get all three meats. So,
nice.
Danny, talk about why we're doing 3 meats as opposed to just ground beef.
So.
Oh, wait, we're using bacon. We're getting ahead of ourselves.
We got some bacon too.
Yes.
We got some bacon. And of course, the bacon, traditionally, you will use some either pancetta or another type of a cured pork. But my grandmother used to make it with bacon. And of course, added some extra flavor to it. And we're gonna get just 2 slices. How much?
We said in our recipe that we were gonna do 2 slices of bacon.
Yes.
So you should have that in your meal kit. So go ahead and as you finish up with those tomatoes, I'm looking at Adrienne on the screen. She's just about done putting her tomatoes in the pot, letting that cook on medium-high heat. Now we're gonna go and start working with the meats. We get the bacon out. We've got 2 slices, and we're going to go ahead and chop that up.
Here.
And the bacon, the purpose of having bacon in your spaghetti is what?
Well, it's that, of course, the Bolognese sauce is very, so we're going to cut this lengthwise, okay? And now we're going to cut, okay? You see, like dices.
Into small dice, right?
So the purpose on the bacon is just adds, for me, of course, my grandmother used to add it for the smokiness and also for extra oomph into the dish. But of course, in the tradition, you add the pancetta or some other pork, any other pork. Also, some people use the pieces of the ham, of like the big pieces of the ham, of the prosciutto, and it's something that also adds a ton of flavor.
A ton of flavor and a little bit of fat too, and that's always good.
So now we're gonna add this bacon into the pot.
Okay, we got our pot going on high. We've got the 2 slices of bacon that we diced in there.
Then, of course, you want it to render a little bit. And also, we're gonna add a little bit of oil.
Okay.
Tiny bit, not too much.
Yeah, I know. If you want to go ahead and pour it in here first. Yeah. So rendering the fat on bacon basically means that we're browning it. We're taking away a lot of the fat that's on it, correct? Okay.
So where we want to start is in here. You will see like the nooks and crannies of the bacon in the pot. So we're gonna render it, get all that fat out, which is all flavor, and then we're gonna add all 3 of our meats.
Right, and that's what we were talking about a little bit before. We're not just using ground beef in this recipe, we're using ground beef, a combination of ground beef, ground pork, and ground veal. Again, that's for the flavor.
Excuse me, I have a question.
I hear a question.
We don't add oil when we're cooking the bacon, right?
Okay, we can't hear you very well. Can you speak up?
I said, do we add the bacon with the oil or no oil?
Yeah, if you were asking the question, do we add the bacon with the olive oil? Yeah, with just a little bit of olive oil to that bacon to start getting it nice and brown.
And do we add any salt to anything?
Alessandra, can you repeat louder what the question is? For some reason, we're having trouble hearing.
Yes, the question is if we need to add salt to any of these mixes, to the bacon or to the veggies.
Okay, just 1 second. We're dealing with volume. I guess now that we've got our pots going, it's harder to hear. So we're getting volume up.
Do we need to add salt?
Oh, yeah. Do we add salt to the meat at this point?
So at this point, we're going to add quite a bit of not quite a bit, but, a good amount of salt so you can taste it. And then also, we're going to add some pepper to it.
Black pepper here. It's smelling good in here. I'm sure it's smelling good in your kitchens at home too.
And of course, you want to like all those meats.
So
down on the.
So you've got the bacon in there, and now you've added the meat, and you're trying to brown the meat, correct? Okay.
Correct. Also, now we're gonna open our canned tomato.
Okay. So now's the time to go ahead and grab your can opener again and your big can of tomatoes.
Yeah.
This will never be like the spaghetti out of a jar with all the preservatives and the sugar. This is homemade. And once you taste this, you'll say, oh my gosh, I never want spaghetti another way. No more of that processed spaghetti sauce. All righty.
Then we didn't put this one. It's all right. Right?
Okay. I know we've got our sauce doing really well over here. You can tell that the tomatoes have broken down a little bit. The bay leaves are still in there for flavor.
Yes. Perfect. So yeah, we didn't have the other ones in the recipe. So it's good. Nice. Everything will be nice and fresh.
Okay. Great. What are some of the other things you like to cook for your kids?
I'm sorry to interrupt. You put the canned tomatoes in there already?
Well, you haven't done anything with the canned tomatoes yet.
Okay.
What are we going to be doing?
No, I
remember you said open it.
Just make sure that it was just
okay.
fresh tomatoes. Yes,
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so we're not using canned tomatoes?
No. Sorry
Okay.
about that. It was only the tomato paste.
Okay, so guess what? You guys get a free can of tomatoes.
We have canned tomatoes?
Yeah, they have a can of tomatoes.
Okay,
so
then,
are they
yes.
using it or are they not?
Yes. Perfect.
Okay,
Perfect.
never mind. We are going to use the canned tomatoes. Okay, so we've got a can of plum tomatoes, peeled tomatoes. That's on the recipe. So we're going to go ahead and add those to the sauce.
Are we using the diced ones or the little ones?
Alessandra, can you say that again for her a little bit louder?
The question was if they're using the diced tomatoes.
We're having trouble hearing. I apologize.
Are you using the diced tomatoes?
Yes.
Oh, yes, we are. So go ahead and that big can of tomatoes you have, go ahead and add that to the sauce. Just like what
The juice and all, or just scoop it? Add the juice with it too, or just scoop it in there?
Do you add the juice as well, Danny? That's what they're asking. You're just
yeah, go for it, for sure.
Okay.
Okay.
Then what I do with, you have the ripe tomato.
Excuse me? We can hear you. Yes, Adrian. Another question? Okay.
If you have any questions, write them on the chat since we're having issues with the volume.
And we just figured out the volume. We can now hear you just fine. So, but if you do have questions, feel free to use the chat. I don't know why we were having issues with the volume, but we can now hear you fine. So if there are any questions, let us know. I'm hoping everyone's following along. We've got our meat pretty much almost there, would you say?
Yes, so now we're gonna add it into the sauce.
So we're gonna take the meat and we're gonna put it in the sauce.
Correct.
Okay, you need some hot pads because you don't want to. We don't want you burning yourself. Oh my gosh.
So now we just add the meat.
Excuse me, I have a question.
Yes, of course.
Okay, what are these for? The cubes, I'm guessing they're seasonings.
Oh, so now, so those 2 cubes, so my grandmother, that was her secret into the menu of her recipes. So she used to add a little bit of chicken bouillon, which is kind of like adding chicken stock to your recipe. You know, it was my grandmother's how would you say, a flavor component. And whenever I make something in my house and it's something like what she used to make, it's something that I always use it, and it really makes a difference on the flavor.
Sir, is that bacon?
Yes, it is. Bacon and the meat.
So the bacon has already browned. Remember, we started with the bacon, and then we moved from the bacon, and we put the 3 meats in, and we've browned that all together. And once it's browned, we went ahead and took that from one pot and added it to our spaghetti, our sauce that has been brewing for a while now. So we've got it all together now. We've got the tomatoes, we've got the meats.
At this point, grab a little spoon and taste your sauce. In the meanwhile, it's not gonna be complete, but at least you wanna see, you know what, you can put more salt. Now that we're gonna put the chicken bouillon in there, like my grandmother used to make. Maybe you don't need to put any more, but it's just that time that you get to taste and you get to see how it's gonna, kind of like getting to that product at the end.
Okay. I never liked tomatoes, but that is good as I don't know what.
So one of the things also, so we're gonna add our chicken bouillon, which is gonna add a lot of flavor.
So in your meal kit, you should have these cubes, these chicken bouillon cubes, and we just unwrapped them and we're throwing them into our sauce for that added flavor.
Then also we have a little bit of sugar, okay? Because of course that tomato is gonna have some acidity to it. So you wanna balance it out. So you're gonna add, what was a recipe?
I think it's like a tablespoon, maybe a teaspoon.
1 teaspoon, yes.
A teaspoon of sugar. And you know, a lot of those prepared sauces at the grocery store, they've got lots of sugar in them.
Yep.
Lots of preservatives. Cooking like this from scratch, you can control the sodium, you can control the sugar, and you know you're eating something that's really good for you.
Mm-hmm. So we want to now start stirring.
Okay, we're just stirring it. I'm looking at some of everybody. I can see, Chef, if you can take a look, you can see some of the pots that are coming together. Everyone's doing well.
Very nice.
Okay, great.
So also with the back of a fork, you know, I like break down the
plum tomatoes. Yeah. Great.
I'm sorry, I didn't get to hear you. What did you put? What seasonings did you guys put on the sauce? Spaghetti sauce?
Sure. So we put the bouillon cubes in there, those 2 chicken bouillon cubes that you have in your meal pack. We put that in there. And then we added just a teaspoon of sugar.
A teaspoon?
A teaspoon of sugar. Yeah. And that, as Chef Danny said, that helps balance out the acidity coming from the tomatoes.
And if you see that, you know, that you want to add a little bit more sugar or go for it, you know, that's also a little bit on the preference. We're gonna taste it again. You have a teaspoon so we can.
Yeah, I just have a fork. We have a teaspoon there. We'll just have to rinse off again. And then we also have our water, but we'll wait on that. This recipe does call for 4 cups of water. If you want to go ahead and get that ready on the side. I don't know if we're going to be using all of that, but you're going to tell us what we're doing. Are you having me taste it?
See, we can add a little bit more of
the. Oh, that's good. That's good. You can definitely you can.
My meat just got, you know, brown and stuff.
What's the question, Cedriana?
My meat just got brown, you know.
Yes.
Perfect.
So I'm about to add it in. Do I drain the juice off?
Yes, that's exactly what you're going to do. Once your meat's brown, you're going to add it to your sauce. This is really good.
So we're going to add some more salt. Okay. There's also that spaghetti is when we cook the spaghetti, it's going to need some more salt. And you see me putting a lot of salt. Sometimes it's not, but it's might look. In the restaurants we season
liberally.
Yeah.
Right. And you typically, what type of salt do you use? Like a kosher salt?
Kosher salt has more of that grain, and it's not like iodized salt that is very fine, and it just really sometimes if you use iodized salt, it can make it very salty. So you have to watch out a little bit. But as with every single salt, I recommend tasting the salt and then see how.
Right. And I only cook with kosher salt.
Yes.
It's something to pay attention to next time you're in the grocery store. I mean, salt's not a very expensive item, but you'll see Morton that makes the iodized table salt. They also make in the box something called kosher salt, and it's flakier, as you mentioned, it's coarser, and it doesn't have the intense iodized flavor, and I love it for cooking. So if you can, go ahead and splurge on some kosher salt and use it in your recipes.
What do we do with this?
What do we do with what?
It looks like a green plant. I don't know what it is.
With the basil and oregano.
Oh, yeah, that.
We will add it at the end.
Sorry.
We'll add that basil and oregano at the end because we wanted to, because it's, unless you got if you got the dry basil and oregano, you can add it now because it will get, if you got fresh, add it at the end.
Yeah. So, Alessandra, what was in their meal kit? What did they get, fresh or did they get dry?
Fresh.
Ooh, good job. So they got fresh basil and
dry oregano.
Dried oregano.
Dry oregano, you can add it now.
Okay, if you have some dried oregano.
Both are fresh.
Oh, wow. Oh, we really went all out.
Nice.
So
they're mixed into the same bag.
Okay, great. So we're going to wait on the fresh herbs to the end, as Chef Danny said. If you had dried herbs, it's okay to go ahead and add them now, but we have fresh.
Then again, we want to taste it at the end of the day. We want it to be seasoned, okay? Because it's getting there. I can add a little bit more sugar. You ready for some more sugar?
Go for it. Go for it. When I was in Danny's restaurant, Danny works at a restaurant in Miami called Fiola. And I was there about a month ago for dinner. And Danny sent out a special dish to me. And it was this pasta dish, and it was with truffles. I don't know. It was amazing. What exactly was that? It was so good. I just ate it so quickly. I don't think I ever even knew what I was eating.
I think one of the main things that, that when you make everything in house, like we make our own pasta, and hopefully one day we can do it together, and it's easy and is also actually is water and flour, and
it's simple ingredients.
And it's very simple ingredients, and you can make anything, with just a little bit of oil or just some butter, and just a nice pasta with butter is just spectacular with fresh pastas. And we can make it one day. It will be something that really, really adds to the dish. But it was just pasta, butter, some Parmigiano Reggiano, and then of course lots of love into what we did.
Yeah, it was amazing. And I love that about what we're learning with these chefs as they come. I mean, simple is the theme we're seeing from recipe to recipe to recipe. And the chefs are saying it doesn't have to be a lot of ingredients. It just has to be quality, flavorful, simple ingredients. And then, as he mentioned now twice, the most important ingredient being love, and that's what we're doing. We're cooking for our families. We're giving our love and attention to something that it makes everything so much better.
Oh, yes. So remember when I said, we want to try to use just one pot. So we're going to add, because this should be already pretty much all the way cooked. So we're going to add some water in here. Okay. And now,
how much water would you say?
Depending on also how much water the tomatoes just released. Like this tomatoes, they released a lot of water. I would say like 2 cups of water. And if we need to add more water, we can add more water later. But so this is the tricky fun part.
Yeah, I've always made my spaghetti noodles.
Excuse me. I actually have a spaghetti trick that I use. So when I'm measuring spaghetti, I use the measuring of a whole, because I learned that the whole is a measurement of one person. Mm-hmm. Is that true?
Yeah.
Yes, that's a good trick. Thanks for sharing that with us. For this recipe, however, we're going to use the entire box, or no?
Half a box.
We're only going to use half a box of the spaghetti noodles. So basically, Adrian, your trick about the whole, you're probably going to be doing 2 of those. So if it's you and your mom having dinner tonight, go ahead and put half the box in.
So we're going to cook this spaghetti. So we can put more. You want to put more?
Sure. Yeah. I think we have enough. As long as we have enough sauce, we can definitely do it. Yeah. So Danny's teaching us the trick. I've always, as I was mentioning earlier, and maybe you too, I've always made my spaghetti in a separate boiling pot of water. And then I get that cooked, and then I put that on a plate, and then I put the sauce on top of it. But you're showing us a different method to cooking our spaghetti, and that is to actually put it in the same pot as the sauce.
Yes, correct. So what we will do with this, it's kind of like cooking a risotto. Risotto is a type of rice is made in northern Italy. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna cook it inside the sauce, and then all the spaghettis are gonna suck all that flavor, and it's gonna be loaded with flavor.
And then the sauce, does it take some of the starch from the spaghetti as well? Right. So they kind of help each other out and marry really a really good flavoring between the sauce and the spaghetti cooking together in one pot.
So you want to add the spaghetti inside the pot. And then as like a comb, you start combing your spaghetti. and start kind of like adding the sauce on top of the spaghetti, okay? So it can start cooking little by little. But also you wanna make sure that you're also stirring it a lot, okay? And remember, keep the sauce and the heat on medium, okay?
Yep, I'm seeing Arlene right now adding her spaghetti noodles to her sauce. And yes, it goes in and it takes a while for it. You have to mix it in with the water to get it less stiff and start going into the sauce. So Arlene, you're doing a great job. Yep, that's exactly what you want to do. How's everybody else doing? I see other people out there cooking. Oh, we got a thumbs up. Okay, that's great. I see. Very nice. Very nice.
So you see now all this beautiful sauce with all the spaghettis, they're all cooking together. And the spaghetti itself is going to grab all this flavor from the sauce. And it's just going to be spectacular.
Right. So about how long does it take to cook from this point forward?
I follow the directions in the box. So it's around, it says 11 minutes, 10 minutes from the box. So just make sure that, you know what, you're stirring it constant.
And you'll start to notice the noodles, they're loosening up. The more we put the sauce on it, the more we stir it, the more the noodles are loosening up and cooking through. It's going to be about another 5 minutes or so from this point. Yeah, so
correct.
We have any questions or comments from anybody while we cook our pasta in our sauce? Everyone's going to work. Now, I have to say, this is probably, we always try to do a recipe that feeds a family of 4. This will definitely feed a family of 4. I think we're going to have leftovers as well.
Listen, spaghetti for the next day is delicious.
Yes, it is. I wouldn't even mind having spaghetti for breakfast. Yes. Well, tell us a little bit more about anything in your experience of cooking. Do you have any other stories that our audience would love to hear?
So one of the main things that I really love when I'm cooking, especially for the house, is try to get and work with the seasons. When you're working with the seasons, when, like, let's say spring right now, you're going to see a lot of different like zucchinis, asparagus,
artichokes,
all these beautiful vegetables. And it's going to be way cheaper when you're cooking with them when it's on season.
When it's in season.
Like in like let's say in winter, you want to get all this root vegetables, sweet potatoes, beets, and then of course you get into the summer, all these beautiful fruits, especially you're here in South Florida. You get a mango from all over the place and some avocados from all over the place. And it's just very, very cheap. And you can make a really, really great meal, salad.
Another question? Yes.
What do we do with this?
Adrian, I can't see you. What is it you're asking?
Do we put the tomato pasta now or later?
The tomatoes, the pasta goes right into your tomato sauce now.
Okay.
Yeah. And it cooks inside your tomato sauce. So Chef Danny is bringing up a really good money-saving point that you do want to kind of look at your recipes.
The tomato pasta.
Okay.
The one inside the little can.
Adrian, please type in your questions and we'll be able to answer them.
Yeah, Adrian, okay. I know it's okay, sweetie. I think what you're saying is your meat and your tomato sauce was in one pan. Remember, we started with the tomato sauce and then we added the meat and we let that cook down for a while. And then we added some water and we're still doing really well. We don't need to add any more water. We seem to be doing well. We added about 2 cups of water to the sauce and then we took the box of spaghetti noodles and we put it into the tomato and meat sauce and we're letting it cook in there. So hopefully that answered your question. But back to what Chef Danny was saying in regards to like a money saving tip is you'll notice there are certain times of the year that vegetables are cheaper than other times of the year. And it all depends on what's in season. So we were just talking about cooking with asparagus.
Asparagus, all those herbs that you're going to see now during the spring.
Right.
It's something that you will see how delicious everything becomes, and it's also cheaper too when you're.
It's cheaper too, yeah. So it's just an easy thing to type into your browser on the internet is just find out, what is your seasonal vegetable for spring, and then you can plan your grocery shopping accordingly. And like I said, you can save money. The other thing I like to do is if I'm buying in season and I'm buying in bulk, I sometimes like to actually freeze some of that and store it in my freezer so that, in the off season, I actually have extra asparagus or extra artichoke hearts or things like that as well.
Or you can make some pickles.
You can make some pickles.
Or you get some beautiful strawberries that right now are in season. You can get them and make some marmalades with them.
Yeah, there's a lot to do. So just give us an idea. Do you cook much with fruit?
Italian cuisine, you don't see that much of fruits inside the you will see some agrodolces, which is like a nice savory how would you say, like a savory sweet
with the fruit. Yes.
But as not like so much like in the Caribbean where you use a lot of mangoes or you use a lot of how would you say, sweet plantains. So those type of things that you see in the Caribbean.
Yeah, it's a little different. Right.
So you see how our pasta is going?
Yes.
It's literally kind of like melting down inside that sauce.
Yes.
So you got to make sure that you're stirring it at all times so it doesn't get stuck in the bottom of the pot. So
okay, we're doing well. We're getting close. I hope everybody out there is getting hungry.
So we're gonna turn this off. Okay. This one. Yes. Gonna turn this off. We're gonna have, of course, one of my main things that you have to do is taste. So taste the sauce, see how it is. Remember, if you have any cheese on the side.
Oh, wow. It's really thickened too.
Yes.
It's become much thicker. Danny, that is amazing.
So
so now we're going to the fresh herbs. We're at that point where we're pulling out our basil and our oregano.
The basil leaves, okay. And then also we're gonna have some beautiful fresh oregano. So oregano, what we will do, it's kind of like just grab the sprig and pull it down. Again, grab the sprig. I'm gonna put it down. We said 3 sprigs, yeah, perfect. Then also we have the basil. So the sprigs of oregano, just a rough chop, okay? You don't have to go too fine. We're gonna add it into the sauce, into the pasta. Then we're gonna have, again, 6 leaves of basil. We're gonna add this one into the sauce. And again, rough chop. Nothing too fine.
And Danny, what do we do with the extra basil and extra oregano? How do you keep that? How do you store that so that it doesn't go to waste?
So one of the things that you can do with it, it's also if you want to use it all inside, go for it. But one of the things that you want to do with it is I put it in the refrigerator inside a Ziploc bag. Make sure you take out most of the air out, and then it will be able to last you for a couple more days. And with basil, you can do great salads. Oregano, same thing. Anything that's fresh, you can make some beautiful, beautiful salads.
Right. Yes. So that's a good tip. Don't let that go to waste. Feel free to add herbs to your salad. Your salad doesn't have to be boring with just lettuce, and add some herbs to it and really enjoy it.
So taste everything and see if it needs more salt, and then of course we're gonna put it all together.
Right. I've got some tongs in the ladle.
Perfect.
And I've got a plate for you. We're getting to the very exciting point right now where it all comes together.
So you see all the...
we cut up the basil and put in the thing?
Yes. You're gonna, now they're really loud. Yes, go ahead and cut your basil into small strips like chiffon, just the way that he did. And the oregano, take it off the stem, and then go ahead and cut the oregano and add it to it. So you do that at the very end. Look at his technique, everybody. I need to learn this. He's using a ladle and tongs, and he's twirling the pasta inside the ladle. That's how a chef prepares. That's how a chef prepares his dish. You don't have to get that fancy, but if you can learn a few things and you want to impress your boyfriend or your husband or your wife, or heck, just your children, this is quite the technique. Beautiful. Beautiful.
And then of course, you're gonna add more of this beautiful sauce on the top.
Perfect. Oh. Okay, everybody. You will never taste spaghetti as good as this. In fact, we'll just go ahead and put this over here. Can get a close-up of it.
Do you want some Parmesan cheese or?
Yeah, if you want to put some Parmesan cheese. I believe we have Parmesan cheese also in their meal kits. So I like to sprinkle a little bit of fresh basil on top. I don't mean to get in the way of the chef's perfection.
No, that's perfect what you did right there. Okay. It's something that, you know, you want to, we gotta open it.
Just kind of garnish it, right. Okay, I see some people are still cooking. That's fine. You can finish up as we finish this class. Let's go ahead and open it up. If there are any other questions for Chef Danny, whether it's about this particular recipe or if you have any other questions for him about cooking in general. Everybody doing okay?
I have a question.
Uh-huh.
I love cooking, but when I grew up, I actually wanted to make my own business of a bakery for animals.
Oh, nice. Well, I'll be there.
I wanted to question what is the best college or school I can go to learn about cooking, stuff like that.
Cooking for?
So, Adrian, your question is, what is the best what for learning how to...
What is the best college or school I can go to learn about making delicious food?
Well, you know, of course.
We're at FIU.
Yes.
Right here in Miami, there is a great culinary school. It's called FIU. And that's where Danny and I are right now. And there's lots of students that learn to cook here.
Oh, yes.
But yes, you can also definitely, depending on where you want to be when you grow up. Do you want to stay in Florida? Do you want to stay in the Miami area? There are great...
I actually don't know.
You don't know. That's okay. You've got time. You've got time, but certainly there's great cooking schools all over the country. Okay, if anybody's got their plate done, I see Cedriana has hers done. If you want to go ahead and show the camera, let's see what your plates look like if you have them.
Oh, very nice. Very
wonderful,
nice.
Wonderful. Way to go. Well, everybody, thank you so much. Oh, she's adding her Parmesan to the top.
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you.
That's rude.
Yes, this is great food. Thank you, Chef Danny.
Oh, thank you for having me.
For being
It's been
here.
an honor.
Yes, and everybody have a good night. Enjoy your spaghetti. Finish cooking it if you're still cooking it, but enjoy your spaghetti, enjoy your leftovers, and we'll see you next month.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.